Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing whether or not the visa process for American visas should be reformed. And I came upon an article the other day. It was quite good. It was from Foreign Policy magazine, specifically their website, foreignpolicy.com. The article was titled, "The State Department's Visa Issuing Authority is in Crisis." And quoting directly, "Finally, the authority of consular affairs must be recognized within the State Department. The Bureau funds much of state's operations and is responsible for one of its most important duties, the aid and defense of U.S. citizens abroad. Yet for administrative purposes, consular affairs is on par with the other 30 or so bureaus within the State Department. Congress should treat consular affairs with the importance it deserves by making the Assistant Secretary of State for Consular Affairs an undersecretary position that answers only to the Secretary of State or Deputy Secretary of State. That would ensure consular affairs has more power over its budget and assignments and a greater say in driving immigration policy." Quoting further, "Reforming consular affairs could be the first step in reforming the entire State Department, just as it was 100 years ago. In the past, it was a truly innovative bureau that helped to overhaul Washington's foreign policy machine, and that can happen again. There's been a lot of talk about the State Department's dire need for reform, and the right way to go about doing that in consular affairs is the best place to start." And I thought this was rather interesting. The entire article is, frankly, it's about something not many people think about, but it's about consular affairs. And consular affairs handles what, in my opinion, are two of the most important things for expats, which is visas to the United States, which often comes up with respect to loved ones of Americans living abroad, as well as American citizen services, things like passport issuance, etc. And the thing that was most interesting in the article, and I urge those who are watching this to go read that, is basically they bring up a really salient point, which is consular affairs generates a lot of revenue. They generate fees associated with visas, passport renewals. There's fees associated with processing consular processing just generally. And these fees are not held on, if you will, by that particular division. It's brought in, and then the money goes out to other places. And sometimes they don't really fund consular affairs to the extent that maybe they otherwise should. That was kind of the implication in the article. The reason I bring it up is, if they do this, I think we'll see major changes to the overall immigration process and visa processing at embassies generally. And the question is that a good thing? Well, presently, the system is not in a very good state. The responses both nationally, inside the United States, and internationally have resulted in a number of issues with respect to backlogs and just inefficiencies in processing out cases. And maybe some reform is in order. I would say, yeah, I think it's probably time to take a good hard look at what consular affairs does. And yeah, I never really realized, it never really dawned on me that arguably one of the major segments of an embassy doesn't have its own undersecretary. It is dealt with at an assistant secretary level, which sort of within the bureaucracy is sort of for lack of a better term, a step down. And really, they do a really good job in that article of going into the history of consular affairs. That, and we've seen this in Thailand with respect to Thai consulates and embassies, where they started off as honorary consulates. And even in the United States years ago, over 100 years ago, there were a lot of these honorary positions, for lack of a better term, and visa fees were set by the consul who was in a given country. And this was just how they did it back then. And it evolved and it became more regimented, and they go into the evolution of it. But it really was a dynamic sort of force, if you will, for promoting American interests, be it the interests of Americans abroad or sort of promoting the image of America abroad. And yeah, I think we could see that again, and it would be interesting to see whether or not reform of consular affairs would not only improve the visa process, but just the overall operation of embassies as well.